This is the Korg Monologue. It is the, well, I hesitate to say it's the monophonic version of the Minilogue. It's actually a different synthesizer with some different features and functionalities that are super cool. It is the monophonic companion of the Minilogue. And despite its compact and small size, its seemingly limited features, and it's the fact that it's almost weightless, it is a powerhouse. It's a shocking powerhouse. It's a lot of fun. It sounds great. And it has features that are unique to it in the world, really, that are surprising. So for a $300 synthesizer, and I'm probably going to be saying this over and over again, it's really something. Let's dive into it with the oscillators. Okay, first, VCO1. Typically in synthesizers, we see VCO1 being the oscillator with all of the functionality, and then VCO2 maybe, if they're going to have different functionality, VCO2 or 3 has less functionality. But in this case, VCO1 is the oscillator with the least functionality. Here's oscillator 1. It has 3 wave forms and then the ability to manipulate the shapes of those waveforms. We control the octave with the global octave switch, which I'll show you. Let's have a listen to this sawtooth. You know, I'm not lying to you, or they're not lying to you, because you can see the waveform right here in this awesome window. I think the window is fantastic because I would like to see us get to the point where we understand sound by looking at the waveform. And I know it seems hard because the waveforms are extremely complex, but the more conversant we are with wave shape, the more we have an understanding of the actual nature of sound. I think that's fantastic. Anyway, so yeah, there's our sawtooth. It's a very nice analog sawtooth. Let's listen to the range. Okay, so this is our lowest note that we can hit with oscillator 1 without, pitch bending, which is kind of surprising. Oscillator 1's range is somewhat limited, but that's fine. We'll talk about why that's okay later. So that is our highest frequency in oscillator 1 in the sawtooth wave shape, which is, since I can hear that with my ears being as they are, that's not the highest frequency. It's not very high. So like I said, there is a limited frequency range in oscillator 1, but due to the intent and architecture of the Monologue, it's not an issue. Okay, let's listen to our triangle wave. This is a very warm triangle, and it has that nice little fuzzy sound on top like triangles should. It's very nice. I don't know why I'm telling you how great this triangle is, but I tend to do that in videos, don't I? Anyway. Now you'll notice something about this as compared to the sawtooth. Okay, people at home, what's the difference? The triangle is actually an octave lower than the sawtooth in the straight waveform setting before we start messing with shape. So that's interesting that the sawtooth, there are different octave settings on the wave shapes. So square and triangle have the same octave. Saw is an octave above. That's interesting. So that means when we take the triangle down, it's going to go deeper than the sawtooth did. Yeah, so we're down into the clicks here. And why do we want the triangle to go deeper maybe than the sawtooth? Because the triangle is where we get our bass. So it makes sense. If we're going to have a limitation like this, it's a good idea to have the triangle to be the bassiest. By bassiest, I mean lowest frequency. It's already the bassiest. Anyway, So the weird thing then is that this is as high as the triangle can go, which is not very high. But again, we want triangle for bass. And there's a practicality that exists in the way that the monologue is set up. Korg is aiming it towards the functions that you will use in certain ways. So that's our triangle. And here's our square. Nice traditional square. It's in the same octave range as the triangle, so we have down clicky, very deep squares. And again, it does not go very high frequency-wise. And you could use the pitch bend if you wanted to, but anyway. Okay, so those are the wave shapes in Oscillator 1. Now let's listen to the shaping functionality of those wave shapes. Okay, this is the extreme other side. Obviously, throughout that entire range, you have an infinite amount of wave shapes to choose. Okay, there's probably a mathematician or an engineer yelling at me right now, but infinite for the sake of argument. And what's really fun, I like about this sawtooth is, as you can tell, first of all, there are two things happening. The wave shape is changing, but as you remember from the mini log, so this is probably a similar oscillator, if not the same oscillator, as you change the shape of the sawtooth, it drops an octave. And it gains a fifth. It's really actually quite cool. But I like putting it right at that point where the wave shape is a little bit sketchy. And you get this little buzzy sizzle in there. So it sounds like there's modulation happening, like some sort of distorting modulation, but there isn't. That's just where that wave shape makes that noise, which I really enjoy. And it makes a really nasty bass sound. Anyway, that's a lot of fun. But so as with the mini log, the shape really changes the timbre and the octave setting of the sawtooth. It makes a cool WM wave shape. I had a friend in high school whose initials those were. There's some really interesting synthesis information. Anyway, I'm sorry. So again, we're not just talking about a saw, triangle, or a square. We're talking about those wave shapes plus the ways that the monologue converts the waves into other waves, allowing you an infinite amount of timbre. There, I said it again. Let's listen to what the triangle can do. Again, the triangle does not change its octave, but you do again hear the presence of the fifth in there. Like a B sort of comes out of the E if I'm playing E. It makes kind of a really cool organ sound. It does take away some of its low end, but that's cool. You have a triangle wave shape that isn't as bassy as before, and that is functionally useful. Wow, and then when you hear the bass come back in, that's amazing. And the square, of course, is the one that is most common to have its shape modified. In this case, we call it pulse width modulation. There's our square wave. And what we're seeing is it moving from a 50% duty cycle, which means it's half up and half down, to 100% where it's all up. And as it goes towards 100%, we can hear it getting more nasal, like pulse width modulation always does. And then we actually have the ability to make it go away. We get to 100%. 100%. But it's fun to put it right where we get just the last possible little bit of the down portion of the square wave, because it's a very nasal, buzzy, sort of cute sound. Also, it makes a cool wave shape. So that's basically pulse width modulation, but you know, you can do it. So that is oscillator 1.